welcome to the Lab Rat Foiler podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have with us Dom Zimmermann, the designer of the Pocket Rocket. And Dom, it's a pleasure to have you on board, man. Everybody's been expecting the Pocket Rocket to hit the market, and it's finally here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and hello
Yeah.
everyone.
No worries, Dom. I always like to start the podcast understanding a little bit about people's backgrounds, where they come from. It's really interesting for us to hear your history in sports and the life journey that led you to become a designer at such a reputable brand like Ozone.
Yeah, I think we have to go back for about 20, 25 years by now, when kiting actually came up, and I came across it through a friend of mine, and when I was in 1999, yes, so it's a while ago, and ever since it's just been always in my life. I started competing in snow kite races, in kite buggy
Hmm.
races. Um, I went around the whole globe for kiting, and obviously at some stage met up with the people from Ozone. I got a job with them. Started off as a sales rep in Germany for Ozone kites, and through the development or through my racing career with foil kites, I started helping Rob in with the development of foil kites, and then later on into water kites as well. And then obviously a few years ago, the wings came across. So yeah, we
Hmm.
naturally born into the position and into the sports. Yeah,
And do you also foil?
I do everything. Yes,
Yeah.
all disciplines
How
we
did you
do it.
get into foiling? Was it through kiting or winging?
Yeah, I got into foiling through kiting, like probably most people did back in the days when we were working on the race kites. Back in the days was the inflatable tube kite, the Edge, and then later on we developing the first foil kite made for racing, the Chrono. And
Mm.
yes, foiling came along, and obviously we went from the big, heavy, long finned race boards onto our foils, and ever since foiling has been an amazing challenge, and it keeps on growing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What kind of foils were you guys using back then? Were they like race foils or something a little bit with bigger square meterage,
No, no,
square centimeter, sorry.
we. I remember we had one old lift foil,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the first mic sleds that came
Ah,
around.
nice.
Once we had to go onto the testing race kites, we needed the fastest foils. Yeah.
Not bad to start with some Mike Slabs foils. They're obviously great foils.
Oh, well,
um,
you got to challenge yourself sometimes, yes.
yeah,
And
that's
even the
awesome.
other foils weren't that great. Like the mic slips were actually
Yeah,
quite good foils. Yeah.
amazing.
Mm.
And when did you see the Parawing for the first time? When did you first laid eyes on something that resembled a Parawing?
It was funny because since the since we did the inflatable wings, and we started these in, I think, 2018, when the winging came up, and after a few years we were like thinking and brainstorming within our team a little bit, and thinking what could we do next. And obviously I think that's when the whole downwind scene grew quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the foils got more efficient, the boards got better, so people were downwinding a lot, and we were like, what could be the next thing? Something retractable would be actually quite nice. And
Mm.
we had that in our mind, but we didn't really pursue it. We did a few prototypes 2 years ago, bit of a different system as the Parawings are now, but didn't really put so much emphasis into it just because everything else kept us so busy.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so basically when we saw the first BRM out there, we were like, yeah, that's probably a good way to go about it. And
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
we were looking what the market was, how the market was taking it, and if it's actually becoming something feasible and worth
Mm.
developing. And then we started quite like a year ago, probably we started the development of the first Parawings here ourselves. And then obviously had to learn the sport ourselves. I wasn't really,
Mm-hmm.
or neither of us was really into downwinding much. So
Yep.
we started off ourselves, learning the sport, having a few prototypes, trying to work on that. So yeah, developing our own skills as well as the products.
That's really cool to because you as a designer, there's nothing better than actually doing what you need to do with the product that you're designing to actually learn from it. So how long did it take you to figure out how to downwind and get comfortable with it? It's not an easy thing to learn.
It's actually not. No, I'm surprised
Yeah.
how hard it is. But with a wing, I'm good with anything that I've got in my hand with like a propulsion in my hand. It's quite
Mm-hmm.
easy. Free flowing, I'm still wouldn't say I'm solid, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you could ever say that, but uh, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I
Yep.
still prefer riding and riding with a sail in some kind of form. To be honest, yeah. And especially here in Mauritius, our downwinding isn't amazing because the winds are usually really strong, but we do have a
Mm.
good wave we are hitting, so we're backing the wing on the waves and then just
Yeah.
free surfing the waves. Yeah,
Yeah.
and go back up again. Yeah.
How I'm always curious to like to be a little fly in the wall of a board meeting at Ozone
Mm.
and you guys discussing like we need to do a parawing. How did that decision come about? Because you guys obviously have kites, wings, boards, foils. Like, how did you actually incorporate that in the plan for 2025 or actually, end of 24? How did that conversation go?
We just, I think it was just natural that customers, we got a wide customer base and everyone knows we're doing paragliders, full kites, and so on. So it's just like
Hmm.
a natural step for us to be in that market as well with all our knowledge and with the ability to produce these kind of wings
Mm.
easily in our own factory. So it was there was a big request actually, and then we thought, oh, like people actually want, they're asking
Yeah.
for it, so there's a big demand in that market because there wasn't much available back then. Obviously, it's getting more and more now, but remember a year ago there was like one or two brands out there probably having something.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I love to hear that story about what kind of validation do you need? It's customers really just sending you guys emails saying, "Hey, when is your version coming out?" And you're like, "All right, we need to actually move the needle on this." Or it's so hard to have that foresight of what will become a thing in foiling because
Mm.
sometimes things that initially don't have too much gravity to it pick up momentum, and I think the wings were like that to many people who foiled. When you saw the wing, a lot of people were a bit hesitant, but now it's probably the major form of foiling out there, the most accessible, the easiest to learn, where probably everyone starts, if you want to have an easier time to get on foil. And with parawinging being so new, I'm always curious to say like how much support from the brand was like, yes, let's go for it, let's try, because I think that's what's driving foiling industry as a whole, that ability to innovate quickly, the ability to just jump on an idea and roll with it, because we don't know, right? What we don't know. And this is more to give you guys props at Ozone being such a big brand to launch something so quick to the market and something that's working so well.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, it was pretty much everyone within the team was behind it. We just, we had a team meeting. We got a lot of demand, people asking, requesting it, and we were like, okay, this is something growing and something that's there for good, probably. It's the next thing that comes up, beside the
Mm.
beside the wings. So we all agreed, yeah, okay, we want to be in that market. We've got a lot of knowledge. It's kind of a no-brainer, even though it
Hmm.
took quite a while, to get through to something workable.
And where did you guys start? So obviously with paragliding background, ram kites in your, lineup of gear. Where did you guys drew the most inspiration from to start the design of the Parawing?
Because we already have a single skin kite in our range for the snow kite market, which is called the
Mm-hmm.
Explore. We could use a lot of knowledge from that design, which is designed by my colleague Stu. So we basically took that as a base or reference and worked backwards, and made it workable for, first of all, for water, and then for the parawing sector. Obviously, the lines and
How hard
everything
was
needs to
it?
be different. Say
How
again,
hard
sorry.
was it to make it work?
It's more challenging than I was thinking it will be. Single skins, because they have no internal pressure and no real structure to it. It's just a
Mm.
sail, and then you've got a few lines spanning it. There need It's quite a few parameters that need to be right to perform having it performing as you want it to be. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's quite challenging, and also the foils, because you're pushing quite hard into the wind with the foil and the parawing,
Yep.
and you want to be able to ride it overpowered without having anything collapsing. So the stability was a big factor for us, because that's what we saw on the wings out there on the market, that I don't think they were really refined on that sector. Like we saw a
Mm-hmm.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
wing mixing in still when you depowered it and stuff. So
Yep.
we were really trying to focus on getting that thing stable as we can.
What was the form that you guys chose to test it? You have a team of test riders that were going out with it. How did you translate that information coming from, riders that on the water can do a lot more than what most average foilers can? And how do you adapt that information coming from a pro rider to actually say, okay, how do we make this work for the everyday foiler?
We are quite fortunate that we just added two amazing new people to our R&D team, which is Axel and Connor, and they were race athletes in the
Mm-hmm.
Olympics. So they really know how to push on foils and go hard, and send it as hard as
Nice.
probably no one else really can. So with their ability to test things to the max, and ourselves all being decent enough foilers, and into the sport, and for a long time, we knew where we need to be going, and obviously we got a capable team of 5 people in the R&D team. Everyone's foiling, everyone's doing all the sports across all
Mm-hmm.
our um, sectors. So it was pretty, the team is amazing, so it was pretty easy actually to do the testing. But yes, it still requires, the right conditions at the right time, and so
Mm-hmm.
on. So
Absolutely. And especially with the Parawing having a smaller performing range than a wing, to actually get that right, I think is probably one of the hardest things to actually go out when the conditions are good to test whatever sizes of Parawings you have to test.
totally, yeah, yeah, no, agreed.
Where did you guys do most of the testing? Was it Mauritius or just all over the world?
Yeah, most of our testing is here in Mauritius, where we base ourselves most of the time a year,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's very efficient here. It's easy. There's the beach. You can drive very close with car to the beach. It's You've got one of the best ways for kiting, a really good way
Mm-hmm.
for winging, parawinging, shallow waters. You can do it downwinders, so it's very efficient for us to do the big range of products we are having, to test everything in one spot. So most testing happened here, also in the south of France, through the winter,
Yep.
where Axel was based, and it's not far from where I'm basing myself in Switzerland through the winter. So I just brought
Mm-hmm.
them there in a bit colder temperatures, but still you got some good storms and stuff, especially for testing the smaller sizes. It's quite efficient,
Nice.
yeah. Mm.
Let's get into the pocket rocket then. So tell us a little bit about what are the main characteristics of the Pocket Rocket Parawing? What does it do really well?
That's pretty much up to everyone else to discover, but what we really focused on, as I said before as well, is the stability when fully depowered. We didn't really want to have anything collapsing on you because that's just creating a lot of drag, pushing the whole wing further back into the wind window,
Mm-hmm.
creating more lateral pull again. So the stability was the major thing we worked on. On After that, obviously having a good amount of range in the wing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we our top end is quite good. The bottom end, it can always be better, but I think we're quite decent compared to other wings. I'm not sure if you tried it yet, but can confirm that because I only have a handful of other brands wings and
Mm-hmm.
tested so far. So I can't talk about every single wing out there, but yes, that's pretty much it. Obviously, the feeling that you get a good point, so you know when you kind of overshooting it and it's losing the drive. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's all little bits and pieces, but I would say stability really was the main focus for us.
I have a number of characteristics that I kind of judge Parawings on when I'm riding them. I might just go through them to see how the Pocket Rocket fits in. So
It's very
stability is the
interesting,
first
yes.
one that stability is the first one that I always look at. And you mentioned that one. And I think now if you're launching a Parawing into the market, and you don't have that inherent stability of being able to ride on the front lines, on the A lines, and releasing the power, and to as much as the Parawing can release power, you're a little bit behind. So I think starting with that is amazing to hear. The second element that I have here is the stowability. How easy is it to stow the Pocket Rocket?
Again, it's it's pretty easy. It requires a bit of getting used to and a technique. Um, Probably just as any other wing as well. It probably could any para wing could be easier to pack if you wouldn't have to use plastic reinforcement battens along the leading
Mm-hmm.
edge, but they do help a lot with the stability. So
Yeah.
we tried a lot without because we wanted to have them stow, be able to stow easier and pack easy,
Mm-hmm.
and you can fold them. But in fact, if you have the right technique with the even with the leading edge plastics in there, it's still quite easy to pack. Kind of you're pulling it by the
Mm-hmm.
A line, and you're gathering all the cells next to each other, and then stuff it in. So it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you probably wouldn't bundle it up as much, and it takes a bit of more maintenance or careful packing, especially at the end of your
Mm-hmm.
session, making sure
Concertina
all the
packing, kind of. Yeah.
concertina packing the ribs onto each other. But it's actually not that hard once you've got the right technique.
Nice. Look, and I don't expect to Parawings to perform in all of these areas because it is a compromise, right? So if you have a 10 out of 10 in your stowability, you might lose a little bit of the stability because you won't have those little plastic bits in the leading edge and things like that. But it's interesting to hear, where did you guys compromise a little bit, and where did you really wanted to double down and put 100% effort into. The next one that I have here on my list is upwind ability, and I think that will kind of tie in with the stability of the Parawing as well.
Just go hand in hand, really. The further you
Mm.
can fly, or the further the Parawing wants to fly into the edge of the wind window, the better is your upwind ability. And also, I don't think you need crazy upwind ability. Yes, it's a nice feature and
Hmm.
good to have. And I think we are doing pretty well. Also, we do have a quite, compared to others as well, it's a quite performant wing, I'd say. We do have a lot of cells and ribs and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not built super basic as you could probably build a simpler one as we did, but this was a
Mm-hmm.
good compromise. There's still good performance, upwind ability, and stability as well. And to add on to your question before, the packability, we have been opting for a very light cloth. So obviously
Mm-hmm.
the lighter the cloth, which comes in with 32 grams per square
Mm-hmm.
meter, which has been used in our paragliders and foil kites. So that's pretty much the lightest cloth you want to be using, I would say, at the moment. And because it's very soft and has
Mm-hmm.
a good silicone coating, it packs super easy. So you feel it's not stiff or anything. It's very soft and packs nicely and easy. Yeah,
That makes a huge difference. Just the
it
ease to
does.
get that air out and just let it breathe a little bit rather than having that crispy feel of a kite to it. Makes it very bulky in that pack down. Um, then why don't you let's talk a little bit about the low end again. When we're talking about styles of Parawings, I think that depending on what you want to do with the Parawing, if you're just a pure downwinder, you probably want a lot of low end so you can get out on a very small Parawing and not have to have something big. How did you guys end up in your low end power with the Pocket Rocket? And you can maybe even tie that into, let's say, if I'm on a rider with 80 kilos, I think that's a good average for people to get their heads around. 80 kilos and the 4.3. Is it a 4.3 that you guys have or a 4.2?
Yeah,
4,
4.3. And the 5 is the
4.3.
biggest one, actually.
And the 5 is the biggest one.
Yeah.
So because I think the 4 meter is probably what like 50% of the people will buy for, that 15 to 20 knots kind of range. Is that where you guys are finding the ranges for an 80 kilo rider for that 4.3?
Yeah, it's either that or even the next size down, which is a 3.6. Um,
Nice.
Personally, I'm 70 kilos and I'm riding the 3.6 as from 12 to 30 knots up
Mm-hmm.
to 25, whatever,
Yeah, nice.
quite easily. So yeah, an 80 kilo rider, and it depends so much on the boards and on the foils you're using. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a
True.
good accelerating board, downwind board, whatever, you need less power from the wing. If you
Mm-hmm.
add a bit of pumping technique to it, you're going in literally no wind if you want so. But one thing I think I want to stress to people is trying not to ride these Parawings too overpowered in general.
Mm-hmm.
They're just nicer to ride within their wind range. Um, if you're unsure, rather take the small sizes, maybe put a bigger one or two sizes up in the backpack if you're going for a mission.
Yep.
And we're expecting the wind to drop or whatever. But they're really fun in the range. If outside the range, there's just because it's a single skin, there's a lot of flap, and if you need to ride them depowered all the time, they're
Mm-hmm.
not really fun.
Yeah, look, it's nice to talk about that because people coming from winging, for example, might expect a certain amount of range in the gear, but the Parawings are not quite there yet. I mean, this is a V1 of everyone, right? And we're expecting the moon. And I think it's just worth mentioning that you might have to go with two sizes to fit within, a range of one wing to be able to ride comfortably. It's probably give or take 5 knots and you're out of that wind range, isn't it?
It feels to be at the moment. Yeah, I agree a bit with you. Um, if you need to take two, I don't know, but and it depends on what the people are expecting and want to be doing. And
Mm.
if you're on a downwind mission and you're not trying to get upwind, then it almost doesn't really matter because you're just deploying the wing for a few seconds, isn't it, to get up on the
Yeah.
foil, and then you're free to go, and it almost doesn't really matter. But if you using the wing to go back upwind, the right size really does
Yeah,
make it more
crucial.
pleasurable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like to talk a little bit about the just how like the thickness of material that you guys used, and I think that most brands are gravitating to that 32 grams. Um, Personally, I feel that they could be a lot thinner. For example, if you're using it for a downwind purpose and you're going to be using it for 5-10% of your session, the wear, the stress that you're going to be putting on it because you're going to be going downwind. They're not kites that are falling from 22 meters in the air on the leading edge. How thin can you go in your in your head? Do you think we can get to like 28 grams, 25? Like I want to go as thin as possible with this material.
Yes, potentially we will be going. There are ways to reduce. It probably would make a lot of difference, because you're shaving off 5, maybe we're able to shave off 7 grams on per square
Mm,
meter. It's not a lot of sale because it's a single layer already.
mm,
There isn't really much um, material there anyways. We do know, and through our longevity testing on the snow kites, on the paragliders, and all of foil kites, that material is very good in longevity. So it's been
mm-hmm.
tested in other products and proven. Who knows what the future brings? There is a limited amount of availability of lighter weight materials. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
going into the 20-gram sector, there's not
Yeah.
that much available anymore. It becomes very um, difficult to produce that material. There's only 2 or 3 mills in the world that actually do that.
Yeah, interesting. Let's maybe just continue with two more things that I have on that list of parameters that I kind of go through when I'm analyzing a
Yeah,
parawing.
true.
And I think they come together. They're kind of part of a similar thing. So one is safety and the other one is user friendliness.
Again, it comes with the stability. The more stable a wing is, the more safe it is, and the more user friendly as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is it exceptionally safe to use? I don't know. I can't answer you that question. But a Parawing is a pretty safe tool anyway, because if you're not using a leash, you just let go, and
Yeah.
whatever happens, and the thing just flies down and then waits on the water for you to be picked up.
And things like having leading edge, a different color, different color bridles, bar with different colors so people know where to hold. Those things are really helpful when someone has no idea what they're doing, just starting in the sport. And I think those are things that the Pocket Rocket comes with as well, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yes. And I think that's where we had a profit, that we knew what people needed after having a go on the first Parawings and what they were missing on them. So we were already taking that feedback in, and we have a color coded bar, we have color coded lines, and a different colored leading edge as well. So you can easily find which way the wing is upside down, which are the lines if you need to be sorting them, and on the bar as well if you launch, the red side is the upper side. It's where your A lines are attached. Easy, yeah.
Those things are super helpful because when you're downwinding or you're trying to redeploy and you're just trying to stay on foil, the last thing you need is to guess what lines you have in your hands. So I think those things will become industry standards now, and most Parawings that are new to the market now, they will probably all have those basic features, but it's kind of a must have, isn't it? And I'm seeing now some Parawings come out with some pulley systems. And obviously, you guys know a lot about pulley systems with paragliders. What's your take on adopting a pulley system with the Parawing? Did you guys test that out at all?
Yes, we did test that as well. We were a bit hesitant because it's a bit of a trade-off in usability and friendliness and usability, because you have another pulley there that can get hooked around the lines if you're not carefully packing the bar. The benefits for at least our design on the Pocket Rocket wasn't really overweighing the extra hassle that you're getting with the pulley. So we decided not to use one. But I can see where people are coming from, and obviously, you're trying to always improve things, or making the next best, whatever it might be. But for us, it didn't really make a difference.
For the user that or the listener that might not even understand that well what a pulley system can do to the Parawing, what benefit can it bring if done properly? What are the things that you can get out of a pulley system in the Parawing?
Hence, I think there's different systems, different setups of pulley systems out there now. I haven't looked at all of them close up, but what I can see is the pulleys, how some other brands are using it, is you're putting the middle and the back lines, if you want, so in a ratio to the A's and not evenly. So you're kind of increasing the camber of the Parawing. It can give you a lower stall point potentially, and maybe also more stability when depowered. In stability in the canopy, I'm talking about, like less flutter.
Yep.
That's maybe what I can see that it does.
Yeah, I think there's a beauty though to something that's designed and it's simple, because I think it's probably harder to get it right without the pulley system in it, isn't it? Because the pulley system you can mask a little bit of the imperfections of whatever you're doing. So I think I'm all for a non-pulley system, whatever you can have that is that gives you less tangles, less ability to stuff up a redeploy or something like that. I think people over time, they'll see that there's a beauty in the less is more concept with the Parawings.
The simplicity, yes, and less clutter. Obviously, there is the nicer it might be. We're also paying attention to that on our kites. We don't have a pulley system on any of our tube kites, and as you're saying, yes, it is kind of a simpler way to make things work. Yeah. Few.
You guys have an amazing line of pro riders. Who are the guys and girls that are most excited about the Parawing in your team?
That's obviously Sinbad on the ladies front, and then we've been listening to John McKay, Ken Act, obviously, and Johnny Heineken. Are our kind of go-to people at the moment, for that kind of sport. Out there doing all the new stuff.
And what do you think? What's the feedback that they bring back? What is the Parawing unlocking for their riding that they weren't able to do before, or they were doing it but not having as much fun?
Again, the feedback is just coming in now that the first wings are getting shipped out there to them and to the riders, and they do feel like the Pocket Rocket is actually like the next, the V2 of Parawings. Basically, it's been developed further than the Parawings they've been riding before. Gives them more upwind, gives them more depower and stability. So yes, it's been interesting to getting their feedbacks, because just the time frame we had to bring that product to market was very short, so we couldn't gather a lot of, we couldn't send out a lot of prototypes to people and get on the feedbacks, and also us, being quite competent riders within our development team. We were just like, we just gonna do that ourselves because time is short. So, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. They all enjoying it. They all think it's a really great product, and we're paying a lot of attention. If you're looking at the lines, they all spliced, so there's no stitching where you can, and no line end where you can damage your hands while sliding up the bridle lines or hurt your hand.
Yep.
And that starts from the bar to the kite. There's no stitchings or no
Amazing.
no sharp edges. The bridle line diameter has been compromised in a way that we didn't go for the thinnest available or possible. But we used a 1.5 millimeter thick line just so it doesn't cut your hand when you're sliding up. Packing
nice.
the wing stuff. So there has been a lot of thought and feedback from these riders gone into the product because they had the experience of what they were missing on the first versions of the other brands' wings.
Does a thicker line also help a little bit with the tangles? Is it like less prone to tangling in a way that is just really, really hard to pull it apart with thicker lines?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the thinner the line is, the easier they tangle and harder to get knots or and potential tangles out. Yeah.
And what are these pro riders doing at the moment? Are they downwinding? Are they taking the riding into waves? Where are they pushing the parawing riding?
Well, I think most people still enjoy the downwinding and packing up or taking the parawing to places. I heard from John, he's just like, it's so easy now. He pedals through the onshore as well, and then once he's behind the braking point, he ejects the parawing and off he goes. He couldn't do that with the inflatable wings before because he couldn't get out through the onshore slop. So, and then looking further into what Kite is doing on the Parawings now, taking it to Jaws. That
was insane.
It's
that
just
video was insane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite mind blowing.
What have you heard from Kai? Have you guys have any contact any feedback from him from the Parawing? Because obviously when he got, I think, a BRM back in the day, the first thing he was doing was backflips on it in the first couple of hours. So I'm sure he's going to take it where no one else has taken it before with this latest video of the Jaws. But how is he feeling about the pair? Is he excited about it?
He's very excited about it. I haven't heard too much feedback from him because he probably only got it last week. So he's just been busy out in the
first week in the rain.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like he's busy enjoying it so far and not jumping onto the computer and sending feedback. But because he's riding our kites as well, so yes, he always gets whatever in wings. So he always gets to ride whatever he wants. So yes, he was asking for a Parawing, and here we go. Yeah,
I'm so excited to see where he's going to take it. If he's going, if it's going to be his main towing device now, because he doesn't have to rely on jet ski riders or anything. He is very fortunate to have an amazing team around him. But there's something about doing it yourself and not having a partner tow yourself in. I'm keen to see what he's going to do with this thing in the next 6 months.
Open up a lot more potential for these people as well. To get into the bigger waves without relying on jet ski driver and so on, all the logistics.
And there's something about these creative riders like Kai, like Balsmuller, that are they just have this creative energy in them that is almost unstoppable. And he was probably one of the biggest innovators in foiling when he first posted that video of him downwinding. So super keen to follow this journey with him now.
Definitely,
surely he's going to talk about it in his podcast at some point.
I bet.
Let's talk a little bit about your stowing belt, Dom. I think one of the things that I noticed that in the gear, if I were to give feedback to all of the brands, one thing that I think isn't really well resolved yet is the stowing. Like, how do we stow this properly and put it into something, a backpack, a belt, whatever, in a way that is fast and that helps us redeploy it. And I think you guys have a very different take on your belt. Can you explain a little bit about how the belt came about, how it works?
Sure. Again, that project is coming from feedback from riders like Sindbad and so on. Obviously you want to have a some kind of device where you can stuff your Parawing away with and then keep free surfing. The idea came mainly from Sindbad, and she made some prototypes of super elastic bags and stuff that she then wrapped around her waist and so on. And we we could do that, as well, and make it a bit more of a final product. So right now it's just a waist belt, and we're calling it Stash belt actually. Goes around your waist, has a bigger part on the back with a very elastic mesh material on the outside, so you can extend that very widely. Even the 5 meter fits in there.
Nice.
On the top, you've got a little Velcro closure. You can either put the bar on top of your wing and then use the Velcro to hold the bar in place, or the bar also fits within the elastic mesh pocket. So either or. Another little detail we added onto it, we've got a little pocket where you can add your hook knife into it. If in case you're in trouble and you need to cut yourself free from the lines, grab the hook knife, cut the lines off, and free yourself in deep trouble. It also works with our wing foil hook from our wing harness. So it's just a little hook that you add onto the webbing, and then you're using it as a very light and easy to use harness at the same time. So you're having the hook on the front on the webbing. You use a harness line into your bar, and off you go. You're riding comfortably upwind on that thing.
Yeah,
it is actually, because it's quite wide on the back. It's quite comfortable to ride a long time. It's quite a good harness actually.
Yeah, when I saw the video of one of your distributors posting it, like just putting a 3 meter into it, it felt like it was much faster to put everything into that belt compared to other belts out there. And that was my biggest gripe, because when you're riding, you want to be able to open and just put something quickly in there. So keen to try that one as well, from the shops here in Australia, and see how that goes. But that looks probably like one of the better options when you're talking about a belt or a stowing device, because at the moment right now they're almost they're okay, and I use them mainly just to have a second Parawing, not to really stow it while riding. And I think that's something that we need, something that we can stow it quickly.
Where do you put your first Parawing if you have a second one in the stowing device? Do you just hold it in your hand? Is that your preferred technique?
I just hold it.
Yeah, that's what I like to do as well.
If I'm doing, if I'm going on a downwinder, I want to get rid of it, and then I take the belt and I do a stow, because then I have 20-30 seconds to do it, but I'm riding for 30 minutes, so I get the benefit of spending that 20 seconds of putting it into the belt and then going on a 10K run or 20K run or whatever. And then if I need it again, I'll just stop, redeploy everything, and it's fine. Now, if I'm doing a session where I'm hitting waves, or sometimes I'm just doing a session in a high performing spot here in the bay where the bumps are a little bit steeper, and I'm just going upwind 500 meters and coming back, I don't stow it properly. I just hold it. I make sure that the lines are kind of tensioned when I'm riding, so I like to keep just a little bit of a stance where the lines are in tension. And sometimes I even put the bar with the Parawing in one hand and then ride it, depending on how good the stowing came out. And I think I get better results from that as well when redeploying rather than the full stow in the belt.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
get 80%, 90% success rate from those. So yeah, I only stash in the belt when it's worthwhile doing it for at least a couple of Ks.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as well. Yeah, for a short wave ride, it's not worth it really. The hassle. Yeah, agree.
And if we were to touch on the points of the product now, and obviously this is industry wide, not talking about the Pocket Rocket only, but where do you think the gear will improve the most in the next couple of years? Is it actually a lot of design work that's going to go into it, that's going to change things? Is it materials? What's the weakest point of the Parawing right now, in your opinion?
To be frank, I think it's the top end that's sacrificed right now by the single surface design. I could imagine that can get a lot better over time once there's more development going into this segment, and I would love to see that. Probably the low end, like the whole range, like the range per size, hopefully becomes bigger, and that means you probably can get away with less wings. Yeah, as you're saying, you're only having 2 wings ideally, smallish and a bigger one, bigger size, and that's all you really need. I think at the moment you still depends what wind conditions you want to be going, but you're probably still good to go with 3 sizes at the moment. So if you can crack that down to only having to use 2 sizes, I would like to see that. Yeah,
I think most people will need 3 for now. I agree with that. And I think a lot of wingers will have that in mind. They'll be like, oh, I have a 2-wing quiver that I can get away with probably in most wind conditions. But again, winging has a couple of years on Parawinging, so we can just tell them to slow down a little bit.
It does, and if you remember how shit they were in the beginning, and how bad the range was in the beginning, like the top end was ridiculous as well. They were just flapping all over the place. So I think it just in a couple of years, I'm sure we will be way beyond where we are now.
Yeah. Do you see people taking the Parawings into like snow? I think, you have a really awesome team of riders. Keen to see what people can do on land with this thing as well.
Yes, I could imagine that it will be actually quite nice. If you're in a windy place, for example, for schools, snow kite schools or something like that, obviously it doesn't allow you to go climb uphill unless you're in a stormy situation, and that's where you, with a kite and lines, you're actually generating by doing loops and so on. You're generating a lot more power, which these Parawings don't allow for. Will it be? I still think you will need a bit of lines for being on the snow, depending on the wind conditions. But usually it winds quite light on the snow, so
yeah.
Well, I don't know where it's going to take us, and it's next year. I mean, the snow season now is pretty much gone, so we'll see what people are making use of it next season on the snow, and what else it can be used for. We don't know yet. I don't think we have explored all the limits.
No, yeah, man. I think so many disciplines will come from it as well. People will take it for downwinding. Other people will just want to mow the lawn. Some people will want to do backflips on it. Some people will want to race. What do you think will happen in that racing scene? Do you think it's going to be a thing, the Parawing racing?
I would believe so, yes. I don't know yet.
They can be very efficient.
They can be, yes. Yeah.
A ram air Parawing.
But you then almost... You're almost down to where the kite racing is, because the kite racers are using 10-meter lines. Yes, okay, you cut that down to no where it is. Yeah, but we'll see. Yes, racing has always pushed the sport, so I would assume once that there will be events being organized and being held, that might become a bit more of a thing.
Yeah. Do you think like a ram air Parawing for your normal Parawing riding, not racing in particular, has any advantage?
We tried that, and so far, no, not at
Mm.
all. Apart from more like racing performance,
Mm-hmm.
it's quite a handful to ride.
Yeah. Just too much power?
Too much hassle because it's inflated. You can't pack it easily.
Yeah.
You ride in there with the bridle lines, and it's just they do tend to have a bit more tension than on a single surface, which is easy to collapse. So you're grabbing one line, you can easily just deform the wing. While
Yeah.
if you're doing that on a ram air inflated wing, each line has more tension to it. It's an interesting way, and we made a few sizes of prototypes of a ram air wing. So far, even racers like Axel that I used to ride inflatable kites on short lines. It's like, yeah, it works, but it's kind of not really that fun. And
Yeah.
the bottom end
It's funny
is
because
missing
it's
a bit as well, so you've got to go on big wings so to get out and move in. Yeah.
It's one of the products that it comes alive, and it's the best when it's not in use, isn't it? Which is a funny concept. I mean, you want to get out, you want to use it, but you have the most fun when it's not in your hands, when you're doing something with it that it's not even out there anymore. But it is really where it allows us to go, right? I think as a rider, and when I started downwinding, my dream was to one day be able to do a prone downwinder. But that's a very hard thing to do that probably like a handful of people can properly say that they do it well. And the risks are just enormous. Once you go down, that's it, right? So you have to be at a level of ability in your downwinding that that you're very confident that nothing's going to happen. At least you're not going to fall. But with the Parawing, it allows you to put yourself in that position with a very small board, with a very small foil, and do something that was really unattainable. Like a year ago, nobody even thought about doing that. But now I see all my friends doing it. They're doing downwinders with 80-liter boards, 60-liter boards, 50-liter boards, incredibly small foils, 800, 900s. And that's what we all want,
exactly.
The fastest, the smallest.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling.
I can't agree more. I think it will open up the whole downwind scene a lot more. And as you say, we will see the boards becoming smaller again, probably, because you just don't need such a big board once you're out with a Parawing, and you can ride smaller foils as well, because all you get up and get onto the foil thing is becoming way less physical.
Yeah.
And makes it more approachable for most people as well, isn't it? Because you know how hard it is to get 100%. Up on a sub and paddle onto a swell.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Look, that's exactly right. I think the journey of learning how to sup, for me, it was really hard. I didn't have any supping experience, so I needed to learn how to do a J stroke from like the very beginning. And it took me 6 to 8 months to be confident out there, to know that I was going out and it wasn't like, maybe I'll get up, maybe I won't.
Exactly,
And then when you tie that in with having the right conditions and stuff, it's a very small window that you're actually doing the sport. So it's hard. And parawinging, it's much like kiting. When you do a kite session, you're on foil for, 55 minutes out of an hour, which is amazing for your learning curve. So I think that's what the Parawing will bring people that are wanting to go downwinding, is that accessibility. Getting up is not an issue if the wind's there,
Totally. And it doesn't need to be as windy as before.
No,
the downwinding.
100%.
So yeah, no, I can't agree more.
Let's talk a little bit about people that are just getting into the sport. I think that's very little information out there still about, okay, I received my Parawing in the mail. I open it up. What do I do with this thing now? What's your advice to people that are just getting into the sport?
Because it comes ready to fly, it's quite easy to, just give it go in a windy place. It doesn't even need to be on the beach. Yes, you want to be free of obstacles around you, but you can just fly it in the park even if you want to. Get used to the handling, get used to how it works. Definitely spend some time practicing on land. Flying the thing, keeping it up, stalling it, packing up, finding the right technique for yourself, how to pack it, how to stash it up, and yeah, it's super safe, isn't it? I mean, I can't.
It is.
And there's no. The good thing I was thinking about it this morning is like, you've got no leash attached to it, so you're super free as well, and it's very easy. They are the only daunting feature that thing has is all the bridle lines, but once you get your head around them, how they are ordered and sorted, and with a color coded, it's quite easy. The untangling takes a bit of time and understanding how it works, but it's not that complicated at all. So I think
and you get used, like you said, you get used to just being around lines. Like I started foiling with a kite, and I had a kiting background before, so for me, lines, it's like it's all my life. You're always setting up lines on the beach, and sometimes you're untangling stuff, but people are scared of lines in general. What can you reassure them at all that about how the line systems work? I think it's very hard for you to have a situation where you're going to have you're going to be declawed by the lines like you potentially can in a kite, because there's so much power in those lines for a kite. But the Parawing, you have to be in such overpowered conditions for something really absurd to happen, I think.
And even then, if you are ending up with a line getting wrapped around your board or your foil or your foot, whatever it might be, because the structure is held by the lines, and as soon as you kind of catching one line, whatever, the whole wing just collapses and loses all its power. So that's the advantage of that single skin design, that it's held by the line. All the tension and everything is coming from the lines, but as soon as you just pulling one line, the whole structure of the Parawing is gone, and it basically doesn't create any more pull or whatsoever. So it's kind of just flat, and kind of flags out, or just gets smashed on the water, and everything's gone, isn't it? So
yeah. There are people who are developing leashes for them. From what I'm hearing, I think you're not a believer in a leash for the Parawing.
We do offer a Parawing leash if people feel, and there might be spots where you prefer to have one. I don't know, if it's maybe it's a very busy area where you're riding, and you don't want other people to get hurt in case you let it go and the Parawing flies downwind a few meters, and it's just very crowded or whatever. I personally think it's another line that can get tangled around your bar and your lines and your Parawing in case you're packing it on the wave or downwinding, and it's not really a safety device, because the safety there is letting go of the bar and then basically disconnect it, and it's not like the thing is going to fly away. It's just going to fly a few meters downwind and be sitting on the water waiting for you to be caught again. So
yeah, I think it might even cause more damage sometimes, because if something happens, I would rather not have any connecting points with the Parawing.
Yeah, I agree.
And just let it go.
But I see for some people,
in a wave situation.
Wave situation, and but I do see people. Some people might prefer it if maybe you're not. I don't know, when it's cold and you can't grip your fingers, or you're getting cold fingers, you can't grip as much. I don't know. Kids, maybe. I don't know. Yes.
Yeah. But if you do need a leash, I mean, all you really need to do is have a connecting point to your harness, connect it on the brake lines, and that's it. You don't have to have anything fancy in the bar or anything like that.
we actually recommend to attach it to the front lines. So
To the front lines.
because you're having less pull when you're on the front lines than when you hold putting the leash onto your back lines, you kind of almost stall the wing, and it kind of sits in the middle of the wing window. And your leading
Okay.
edge could still potentially be open and pulling, while if you just connect it to the front lines, it goes full depower and just flies to the edge of the wing window
And just
and sits there and bounces on the water, or depending on the design. But ours is just like sitting there on the edge of the wing window, just like it's like full depower on a kite, pretty much.
I think it's interesting for us to touch on that safety element, because everything is very new, and I think with the Parawing you can put yourself in some dangerous situations if you're a newbie and you're like, I'm going to go downwinding, and then you shoot yourself 3 kilometers into the ocean, and then there's a lot of things that can go wrong. Do you have any tips or anything for people that are starting their downwinding journey, safety gear, or anything that you think is worth them just thinking about before going out, sending something 2-3 Ks offshore?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot. First of all, you do not want to get disconnect from your board, I suppose, because that's one of your safety device or floating device. So obviously wearing a leash, you maybe a floating vest or whatever, a floating device on your body just to help you being afloat. Obviously, you need to be able to call rescue in something happens out there, all that kind of stuff. A helmet, I think, never hurts really. I always ride the foils with a helmet personally. Makes me feel better, and I did get someone in the head before, so
you just need one, right?
You only need one. It's like, okay, well, guess what? It's very easy to put a helmet on.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, mate. If you're going for big missions, obviously you're going step by step, and I think that's the major part of approaching new sports and new things is go step by step. Don't go full in and go out into the open ocean without knowing what you're doing, how to pack the wing properly, how to redeploy it, and so on. And then, yes, if if the forecast is showing the wind's dropping, you want to take a bigger size probably. It's all these little bits and pieces. I think people need to go steady and learn as they go, and what their personal needs. Obviously, hydration, if you're out there for hours, is another thing.
Those are great tips, actually. All of those are things that I think I learned, all of them individually in the worst way possible. And now when I go out and it's something big, you have all those measures ready to go. We share location. We take our phones. We all have PLBs. And all of those things, thankfully, I've never had to use one. But in case of something drastic happening, like you said, you lose your board, your leash breaks, you can call rescue, because that's probably the worst situation you can think about. You have nothing to float on. And the Parawing doesn't have anything inflatable. It's not a wing, because a wing also helps you in that regard. Yeah. So definitely some good tips there.
And if you're floating, people need to be aware. If you're floating without any device in the ocean, the only thing that sticks out of the water is your head, and it's very hard to be seen by by helicopters, by anyone really.
Yep.
It's just a little knob in it.
But that's when we were talking about safety features of. When I was talking about those things that I look at when I look at a Parawing, the color of the Parawing is huge. It's super important. The brighter the color, it's probably the only thing that someone can spot from a distance. So I remember when I was riding the BRM, people were like, "Oh, it's so hard to see you out there, even from the beach." Because it's you just look like a whitecap or something like that from a distance. But when you have some colors that pop, and you guys all have colors that pop that I think are really good. That to me on its own is a design safety feature of the Parawing. Being able to be seen out there is super important. And you guys I saw on the website that are you able to choose your colors as well? Like if I want to go on the website and I want to Parawing in a certain color range, I can go there and do that?
There's a certain amount of colors available that we have in stock, and you can basically just create your own design on your Parawing. Yeah.
I freaking love that.
You can flick the colors around. There's three. I think the current design uses three different colors, so you can either, use three different ones, use the same one, whatever you like. Yeah, it's quite nice.
Oh my God. It sounds a little futile, but I love that stuff. Like if you're gonna buy something, and like, is that something that's common in the paragliding world, or is that something that you guys created just for the Parawing?
No, we do that on all kites and all our products. Basically, they can every model can be customized. Yeah, with obviously the color palette that we do offer.
Amazing.
We can't do individual color choices runs because there's an MOQ you've got to order. So,
yeah.
But the different color combinations out of the colors we are having, there's a wide range of designs you can create your own wing from. So it's quite interesting. Yeah. So, and since we are, we're producing just in time, so there's a order coming in from a customer that gets a slot in the our factory, and it's made. Basically, everything's made to order by our factory. So we're not over producing a lot of stock, and so yeah. And it's still pretty quick turnaround. I think the manufacturing time at the moment is 20 days or 25 days.
That's really good.
Add another week of shipping to it, and you'll have your wing within 4 weeks.
To have a custom, I like that. I might get one with the lab rat colors on it.
Do it.
Have a pink and white one.
Let's make you one.
Nice,
even custom logos and stuff is all possible.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. That's the first time I hear anybody offering something like that. So it's a surprise to me. Maybe I'm not just in like as close to the ram kites or that kind of thing, because I didn't know it was a natural or easy thing to do. Even that's cool.
It's not easy, but it's because we're having our own factory, and we have a special department focusing on custom designs. I think there's even a website we're running. It's like customkites.com or something. If not, you look at Fly Ozone, and there's in the menu there is a custom kite page where you get all the information. So if you're looking at Kite's, Lenny's wings, he's got the Red Bull logo in there and stuff. So we're doing all that kind of customization. It's good stuff, feature, and it sets you apart from the rest.
Yeah. What's your predictions for 2025 and parawinging? I think this summer now in the northern hemisphere, this thing's gonna blow up. How do you guys see it growing in 2025?
That would be interesting to actually monitor what is going to happen. As we're seeing, there's a lot more brands now pushing into that market, so which will help the sport to grow, obviously, and probably become a standing alone sport, I would say. Right now, I'd see it as a side of the winging, but I think it's actually becoming like a standalone. Products will become better. Will be more development being allocated into that sector, I can see. So pretty interesting to see where it is. I can't predict anything, but I'm definitely seeing a huge demand. Probably from maybe the wing market will suffer from that, because I think a lot of people will switch from inflatable wings to Parawings, just because it's something new and fresh.
Yeah.
It will open up more spots, I would assume. You just paddle out into the wind line if you have to or whatever, and it's super easy. I think maybe the adventure side and exploration side of spots of long downwind trips or missions even, I don't know, maybe more of that stuff will come up. just because it's so easy to pack, isn't it? So yeah, I can't wait to see what's happening. And then look at Kai, who already pushed it to the next level now with going to jaw. So yeah, gosh, imagine a surfer sees that. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd love to try to. Not that I try to get forecasts out of people, but I love to talk about what can happen. And when I look back and I look at the evolution of our sports in general, like windsurfing, and then kite surfing kind of took over windsurfing, and then wing foiling took over kiting. And I'm not saying that parawing is going to take over winging, but I feel like a lot of wingers, they get to a certain level, and unless you're throwing a backflip next, you kind of stall a little bit, and you need to do something different. So then they might try the parawing, they might start dabbling into downwinding a little bit more. And if you're a winger that never had exposure to kite surfing, for example, and your first thing closest to a kite surf, a kite foil or something like that is the parawing, I think it might even get people interested in kite surfing and go full circle back, because they're like, oh, I like the parawing. What about trying something with longer lines, and go full circle back? So it's so interesting how these trends happen. And I also have no idea what's going to happen with parawinging. But I feel that it's a sport that allows us to do so much, and gives us normal humans the ability to do something quite amazing and quite difficult. So I'm also very, very interested to see and follow what happens in 2025.
Yes, can't agree more. Yeah, totally right.
Well, Dom, I only have one more question left for you. I always like to just ask our guests to give someone who's thinking about parawinging some reason to try it. Why should people just give it a crack?
The main reason I feel like it's another form of freedom you can put yourself into. Mm, I thought, when the winging came along and we stopped using lines on kites and we went out on the foils with the wings, I felt a lot more free, especially on the waves,
Mm-hmm.
to surf the waves almost the way I wanted to, because I didn't have to take pay attention to the line tension on where my
Yeah.
kite sits when I exit the waves, and so on. I could just free surf the wave, obviously on a foil, amazing performance, and so on. And for me, the paddling is now the next level of being free on a wave. Like,
Yeah.
if you're just holding it in the hand, like you can see Kai is doing, you're not feeling any drag really or anything holding back on the wave, and you just can go any direction. If you're now adding to it, if you're packing it into your pocket, you are literally free surfing on the wave, and that's quite amazing, with the opportunity to just do it all over again with very little physical effort. And that's what we like to do, isn't it? It's like, that's
Yeah.
easy. I can do that all day. If you're out there with a
Mm-hmm.
paddle, or you've got a paddle by hand, you're doing it for an hour and then you're knackered. With a
Yeah.
with a paddling, it's just, I can do that all day. So
Absolutely. It's almost hard to come back in.
it is. So that's where I think, it's amazing. It allows you to go explore the waves a bit more free and in different way.
I love it.
Yeah.
Dom, the next level of freedom. I think you summed it up pretty well. Dom, thank you for your time. We've got through it. We had a few connection issues, but we got through it.
Yeah, sorry, that's all. That's on
And
me. The connection wasn't my side. Sorry for that, people.
we got it. So yeah, look, I'll reach out to you and keep in touch, and hopefully we can talk in a year's time in a completely different market, a completely different reality, and see what's happening with Ozone in a couple of months or a year's time.
Love to. Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, Dom. You have a good day.